There's one other thing I just wanted to get your opinion on.
Yes.
Twitter, how are things going?
Oh, I love it.
Because it's more towards anarchism.
No, well, Twitter's a private company, so
I know, but it's kind of like opened up to kind of.
what I like about I'm not looking at it from anarchist perspective.
Okay.
What I like about Twitter, the one thing I could point out, which I think everyone listening to this, or for the most part, will agree with. Increasingly, people who are spewing their propaganda from whatever political persuasion there are, now they have this thing where people provide context. So you'll have some apparatchik from the Republicans or Democrats just making some ridiculous claim. And then readers will be like, in reality, this photo, I think there was some photo of a kid who was like a victim of the Ukrainian war. And the context was, this photo is from 2003. So things like this, where you have these photos that are used to play in people's heartstrings, that are used in very cynical ways. That in and of itself is a wonderful thing. The fact that corporate journalists, who are the enemy of the people, who are some of the worst human beings on earth then and now, are not being a protected class on Twitter is an extremely healthy phenomenon, that they are ratioed constantly, that they are not given reverence, but are given a small fraction of the overwhelming contempt they deserve. That's something I admire a lot on Twitter. And I also think it's wonderful, and this is something that is being politicized and shouldn't be. You could think Elon Musk is the devil, and that's fine. There's a lot of things he does that are wrong, whatever. The fact that child abuse is being talked about and discussed, and there's articles about how he's not doing it successfully. The fact that he is making a priority to remove this kind of imagery from Twitter is something that I don't think should be a political football. It's something that I think everyone should be more aware of and more supportive of.
Yeah, me and Danny were talking about this yesterday, that there's this weird kind of like underground part of Twitter, but that is right there for anyone to find if they want it. There's this whole section of porn on Twitter that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's just there.
Yeah.
That one click away, like anyone can find. It was a bit mind blowing. Just on that point on the mainstream journalists, do you think we've seen?
I don't use the term mainstream because they're so radical and so.
Should we use cunty journalists?
I say corporate journalists because to call them mainstream excuses their malfeasance and depravity.
Do you know what? I'm going to change my language. There's corporate journalists. Do you think?
Do you think the New York? I'm not being sarcastic. Yeah. Do you think that someone who works at the New York Times has a mainstream ideology?
No, they don't. Actually, no, they don't. I think it's just historical context. I've just used that term. But do you think we're seeing like a fracturing and breaking down of corporate journalism?
Yes, I think unquestionably. I think trust is asymmetrical.
Yeah.
So if I am your friend and I tell you 100 truths and one lie, you don't regard me as truthful. That lie, carries much more weight than those 100 truthful statements. So when you see these outlets are engaged in brazen, I always say the corporate truth is factual but not truthful. They'll take things out of context just to try to skew things in one way or another. Once you spot their tactics, you realize, they're corporations. They have an agenda, which is fine. Everyone has some agenda. Once you realize what they are and what they're up to, they lose a lot of their gravitas. And I think that it's, by all accounts, they're losing their clout. And they're losing their ability to define the issues of the day and what one's perspective should be on those issues of the day.
Well, look, our industry is the Bitcoin industry, and we have to routinely bat against the lies about what
Bitcoin's
Bitcoin
over.
is.
Didn't you hear the article? Bitcoin's done, right? Every time Bitcoin crashes, and I saw some tweet, and I'm sure you've seen literally probably 100 of them, people putting together all the articles at different times when Bitcoin goes down. Like, Bitcoin's over. It's a Ponzi scheme, right? Yeah.
Well, we even had
or it's racist.
Yeah. It's
ones and zeros are racist. Yeah.
It's an alt-right currency, or it's boiling polar bears, or I
love the idea that someone in the KKK doesn't use like American currency.
Yeah.
Like, what are they using? Like Klan money? But you laugh. But this is what I speak about them being factual but not truthful. They can say it's true. It is true that Nazis and white supremacists use Bitcoin. They also use every other currency. Money is used by everyone. So to say it's largely or exclusively the domain of Klansmen is so disingenuous. And that's why so many people increasingly condemn and despise them being corporate journalists.
Someone's going to set up ClanCoin now on Ethereum, aren't they?
It probably already exists.
I bet it does already exist. Final question on that. You just said if someone tells 100 truths and one lie, I am not part of the corporate media. I am just an independent person making content. I make mistakes.
Sure.
How do you deal with, like, what would you say as someone like I should deal with that? When I made some fucking catastrophic points during COVID. I got things I read wrong, got totally wrong. My complete interpretation. What would
I've
you say?
got things wrong a lot.
So what do you deal with that? Because is it a lie or is it a mistake?
Well, this is what I do. I try to be as transparent as possible. So I'll come back to it and I'll say, this is why I came to that conclusion. This is the information I was based on. This is why I was wrong. So they might still think you're a lie. So you know how it works. When you get successful enough, you become a grifter.
Yeah.
And then when you get even more successful, you become controlled opposition. And then after that, I think you become a sellout. So that's kind of the gradation of success in terms of being influential or a podcaster.
Are you a sellout?
I'm controlled opposition now. Okay. So I just made it. So I'm really excited.
Where am I? I'm grifter still.
You're still grifter.
Yeah, I'm still
you're still grifter.
Yeah.
I think everyone in Bitcoin's a grifter.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin hasn't become normalized enough for anyone to be controlled opposition. Once you have Bitcoin being used by like Whole Foods or places like that, then you become controlled opposition, and Bitcoin itself is going to be the controlled opposition currency, right? That's you know this is coming.
Yeah, I do.
So I think in those cases, transparency and also acknowledging I understand why someone would think, looking at this, why I'm full of shit, because you can understand their perspective. And I always tell people you shouldn't trust me. Whatever I say in this book, there's I think 600 footnotes. Double check it for yourself. Don't take something at face value just because I or anyone else is saying it.